So the GDP numbers this morning, I would say overall, paint a picture of the economy that is starting to diverge. There is some weakness emerging where you see the interest rate sensitive sectors like in investment are coming down, they are contracting, but you still see the consumer doing okay. In this report, we saw exports, most likely from oil exports and natural gas exports, helped lift that GDP number, as well as imports coming in and inventories on the other side. But the main takeaway, I think that's important for the economy and for investors and for the Fed is that consumption still remains solid. It's not great, but it's doing all right to the point that the Fed can still read this as an economy that can handle further rate increases. Right now, I think what the Fed is going to do is hike rates by 75 basis points in November. Then in December, for the December meeting, I think we're really up in the air of whether they're going to want to go 50 or 75. I think there's many on the committee that would like to slow down before they enter into 2023. However, that debate between the doves and the hawks on the committee is going to be decided by the data. I think inflation is still a major concern. Uh, Inflation is still high. It's still sticky. It has been helped by some commodity prices coming down and gas prices coming down. However, I think in the next report that we see, we're also going to see gas prices go back up a little bit. So we're not going to get that sustained relief from energy prices going forward, or at least we cannot rely on them. When we're looking at the core inflation situation, core inflation still remains very high. Even if you exclude rents, core inflation is still very high. And so that's going to remain a problem for the Fed. And as long as the labor market remains as tight as it is, it's going to be hard to see how we can get inflation sustainably down to 2% until we see some cooling in the labor market as well. I don't think the US economy is in a recession right now, but I think a recession in 2023 or going forward is quite likely. And that is because the labor market, the Fed likely needs to see the labor market cool down significantly in order to be confident that inflation is going to return to 2%. And so that will likely entail some sort of recession. I do not believe, however, that we are currently in recession. I do think at present, the data that we have available is showing us that there is a resilience to the economy, and that is why the Fed is having to hike so much. I think the basic message here is that interest rate sensitive sectors of the economy are starting to contract, and they are bearing the brunt of the Fed's adjustment in interest rates. However, the consumer and the labor market are still doing all right, and they are showing a resilience that will mean that the Fed is likely to continue hiking until they see a more material cooling down in both the consumer sector and in the labor market. And it's only then that the Fed can be confident that they're going to see a sustainable return to 2% inflation, because the US has an inflation problem. And the only way to deal with it that we know how is for the Fed to continue hiking interest rates.